You are watching Beyond Design, a video podcast that inspires and encourages architects, engineers, and aspiring construction industry professionals to develop their skills and pursue professional careers beyond design. I am Brian Ernest Regalado, an architect by profession practicing as a construction cost management specialist. Join me as I sit down with experts in the construction industry to talk about their professional practice, principles, processes, the lessons they have learned, and how they make an impact. Okay, thank you. Welcome back once again for another episode of Beyond Design, Women in the AEC Industry. So we apologize for that technical glitch, but we'll make sure this broadcast is stable. So good. Thank you once again. And tonight we are already on our 5th episode of our mini series, and we are so privileged to have with us tonight Ms. Lola Ripoles to share with us her expertise in leading global teams. So Lola is an accomplished and effective all-rounded real estate technical consultant and program manager. She boasts of an exemplary track record of leading architectural and real estate projects internationally, consistently delivering success in high-value projects in retail and commercial industries. So she is very experienced in the leadership and coordination of multi-skilled individuals, implementing effective structures which focus on robust quality control and execute an approach specifically tailored to customers' needs. She excels in leading international teams. So we welcome back once again on our show, Miss Lola Ripoles.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for having me here this evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, and for the introduction. For me, it's a real privilege to be able to explain how I, talk about my career and about my experience trying to help others. So thanks a lot.
Great, thank you, Lola. So we're very excited to hear from you about the 10 best practices in leading global teams. But before we proceed to that, we'd love to hear from you about your background in terms of training and education before you became a construction portfolio project manager.
So I studied architecture at the Polytechnic University of Madrid, and I worked many years as an architect, and I'm really very fond of design for several reasons. Also, I have a family background of architects, so becoming an architect at home was kind of a natural thing to do, as my dad was an architect and so was my grandfather. So I had it really at home. And what happened is that as my architectural practice grew, so did my projects. And inside my architectural practice, I stepped into a PM role due to the fact that I had to organize the work and tasks in the office and report to clients. So That's a little bit of my background. But I love architecture. That's something that's always deep inside me.
Okay, so you have worked as an architect for many years, and you eventually ventured into project management just because of necessity for doing your projects. Is that right?
Yeah, it is right. I mean, it was not a different or a service that was differentiated from architecture in Spain at the time. It was really very much part of what the architect used to do. And yeah, I did it gradually and inside my own company. So we had international clients that were really requesting this service. And at the time, there were very few project management firms in Spain, so a company gave a comprehensive service. And that is how I just went into project management.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that it was first about growing our office, and later it was about making projects happen, about the challenge of creating projects that really suited client needs, and even going further from just the normal tag that was given at the time to the architect in Spain, which was like the design person giving an overall service that um, would really make fit projects into the business case. So it was about realizing that design is very important, but fulfilling client needs from an entrepreneurial point of view is even more. So it all fitted together.
Okay, so okay, and uh, I'm just curious, Lola. What other than those things you just shared, what were your other considerations for becoming a project manager?
So I did design for many years, and as I've said, I'm really fond of design. I enjoy it very much to the deepest of my core. But I must say, I was also quite successful. So my designs were always very well received. I was quite privileged. But it was more that life was leading me to this new role. And as it went along, I found that I enjoyed it a lot. And I found the creative part of it too.
Hmm.
So it just came as an evolution. It came naturally. It wasn't something that was really thought about. It was just um, an evolution.
Okay, so before we proceed with the next questions, Lola, this we're actually taking in questions from our audience. So if you are watching tonight and if you have questions, feel free to type your questions at the comment section and indicate to whom it is addressed, and we will at best answer your questions. So so moving forward, uh, when you entered the industry, you knew that it was a male-dominated industry. How do you think being a woman worked to your advantage, or if any, or if to some extent a disadvantage? I would narrow that down to technical and intra and interpersonal aspects of your work as a construction project manager.
So I would say that to start with, it was not really an advantage. I have to be completely sincere about this. I had to demonstrate a lot. Um, but I think that having a softer approach and being organized and not too loud and doing things in a calm manner, very um, very much in my own way, in the end, really worked. So when I finished architecture school, I remember I worked for a big developer in Spain. And to be fair, I got the job through one of my uncles, and I was working straight away when I finished. And being sent to a site, upon my arrival, I heard the client complain on the phone that he had asked for an architect and that he had been sent a girl. So that did not discourage me. I was like amazed. Why is this man saying this? And I'm an architect, of course. So I just did my job and I ignored it. This was way back in 1990. So architecture was always my thing. And from methods and all that. So at home, when I said I was going to become an architect, nobody really paid attention, not even my dad, to be fair. So I was just getting on and doing my thing, and that's how I did it, regardless of what was around. And doing things my way, um, even, I don't really stop to think whether it's a man's way or a woman's way. It's just done in a natural way, I think may have helped. So it's never been in my mind as a burden or as something that stopped me. I always really thought of it afterwards. So many years, I've had these thoughts, but when things were occurring, I just got on, and it wasn't something that would really stop me. I took it also as a natural thing, that it was all men, but wasn't something that preoccupied me. So that's how it was. I was very happy indeed afterwards when I see there's lots of women now, and when I see that there's lots of women also in architecture school and in the business schools where I teach. That's something that does give me great pride.
Okay, so it was quite there was at the start it was there was a disadvantage for
It,
being a
yeah,
woman in the industry, and that is quite an experience being received by a client, and saying that he asked for an architect. I suppose that it was very rare during that time to have female architects visiting clients.
it was rare, and I was quite young. So I have to say that, of course, things have changed a lot, and um, I'm not like that anymore. But yeah, it was a disadvantage, but I never really felt it. I mean, it's only just looking back that I realized, but not really when it did happen. That's
Okay.
the experience.
So, Lola, how long have you been practicing as a construction project manager?
Um, I think full on, close to 20 years, which is quite a long time. It's scary.
Mhm.
Um, it's time goes by very quick, and yeah, I think since, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe 20
In all
years.
those 20 years,
Yeah.
can you share with us the highlights of your career? Do you have favorite projects in your portfolio?
I do. I remember very clearly the refurbishment of the Intercontinental Hotel in Madrid. That was a really large project that we did with our own architectural practice. And I learned a lot. It was a huge international large team with all sorts of consultants on board. The first time that I was working in such a structured manner, which was not normal at the time in Spain. And I was the lead design coordinator. And yeah, I, you know, I really remember that project as something very dear to me. And it was kind of the hotel being part of my family. I knew everybody in the hotel, and it was very, very close. So another project where I learned a lot was the Primark stores in Spain. A rollout of it was a more difficult time in my life, but and it was quite a challenge uh, due to the team and due to the time frame. But I think I did well. I learned a lot.
Okay. Um, yeah. So how did you end up as an international portfolio project manager after all those projects that you did initially?
I mean, before even going out of architecture school, I went to work in the U.S. I worked in Beach in California, And that was really eye-opening. I worked at Wimberley Allison Tongungu, a large architectural firm that specializes in hotels and hospitality. And I was a trainee there, and I watched and learned. I thought I did not do much at the time because I was doing the things nobody wanted to do,
Mhm.
like you know the 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 title blocks for the plans and coloring elevations and going to meetings and listening. But I realize now that it was a really incredible experience and I learned so much. So, what I brought back when I came back is that I knew my approach of what I wanted in my practice was
Mhm.
not what was normally offered in Spain. The fact of of wanting to do international projects and the fact of also speaking good English, which I think has surely helped me. And I must thank my British Council school teacher, Mr. Foster. And not only that, all my career has always taken place or happened in English, and that was of great help. But especially, it's this consideration of an architectural company as a firm more than linked to the name of a given person, but more like a company to
Mhm.
the service to the client. I think that was the main thing that gave me the view to become an international project
Mhm.
portfolio manager. So that is the answer.
Okay. Before we proceed with the other questions, we'll just read some comments and questions. So Christina's watching us. Good evening, good afternoon from London, Brian and Lola. Good evening, Christina,
So you see you.
and from ICPMA, and hi from Andalusia, Spain. I believe. Hi, good evening. And there's a question here. I'd like to follow up on Lola's point about the importance of the project manager understanding the client. Is this going to become even more important now following the pandemic? So,
Or
Lola.
of course it is going to become. It's always been the reason for things to happen. So I think that um, the main approach to a project has always got to be the best service to the client.
Mhm.
So even with all the technology and with the current situation, I think that being focused on the people is becoming more and more important and on what they need. So I think listening is very important. And of course, you need to understand the client inside out. So um, you need to read their organization, read their needs, read how they may need your reporting to be, make it absolutely tailored. That is what's going to give a client satisfaction, and that's what's going to make your service stand out from the crowd.
And if I may add to that.
Yeah,
It's really important, of utmost importance that we listen to them, and we also pay attention to the things that make them uh, scared because of the uncertainty of this because of this pandemic, and because that is that feeling of being scared is actually an indicator of how they understand the risk they're getting into, and how that risk can or may impact their projects. And this is, we need to listen to them regarding that, because we need to be able to address it properly. I mean, treat make the necessary action for that probable risk events that they're thinking of, and be able also to build their confidence that if we are very certain that we can hurdle it, or that we can hurdle it as a team, then we should be able to build also their confidence with the kind of service that we will deliver to them.
yeah.
Uh,
We trust is of utter importance and trust you build
Mm-hmm.
today, working hard,
Yes.
always working so their expectations fit with what's going on in the project and they don't have expectations which cannot be met. So, of
Yes.
course, you need to understand the client. That does not mean you always have to tell the client what they want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Have to inform them of what is happening, and then you have to be flexible to adapt to your team, to adapt to work, to
Yeah.
what they need. But um, understanding the client is really key,
Yeah.
and it's based in trust.
Yeah. Okay, and so thank you for those questions, and should you have more questions, just feel free to type them at the comment section. So, moving forward, it's already difficult to be a project manager, but to be a portfolio manager, handling various projects and programs, is really on a much higher level of difficulty. So, what does it take to be an international portfolio manager, and how much commitment or responsibility does it entail?
I would say that it takes to be calm and to be a little bit detached. So you cannot just be reactive. You need to be very proactive. It's very important to have a general vision of what you're doing, so you cannot get lost in the details, and you can maintain the focus regardless of what is happening around you, even if there's been a lot of things or that may seem urgent. You have really to separate what is really important from what may look like urgent. And you need to think every day if you have a portfolio of projects, what is it that needs your attention that day or that week, and what's the key. So, really, any large project or group of projects does entail responsibilities. And I would say that having responsibilities is a privilege that you need to raise up to, but you should not be scared. I consider myself quite a responsible person, and yet holding responsibilities has never really felt heavy. Maybe I
Mhm.
have been lucky in the sense that I haven't had uh, a fatal accident inside or anything like that. So surely that does help. But I would say that you have to keep all that, but you have to raise above it. And you do your thing. You work to your standards. You work with with the right attitude, and um, you just need to be aware. You don't need to be scared, and just do your thing. As I said before, really, you have your insurances, you have everything in place, and then yes, it entails responsibility. But that's why you need very close to your client. As I said before, you
Mhm.
have to understand their business in depth, be it retail, be it hospitality, and that means understanding if it is a dish that needs to go from kitchen to room without going cold. How long does that take? Or if it is a display in a store, how much product can you show? How can you show it? What does it that mean in terms of conversion into sales?
Mhm.
How departments are organized? What is key? What's not key? All that, and then put that into your practice. That's what I would recommend.
Okay, so it's really no, it weighs heavily that we understand our clients, we
Yeah,
know the nature of his business,
yeah.
understand his requirements and the way he does things, and having that in perspective, do things according to standard, and do it right, and do it with confidence, and do not be weighed down with responsibilities.
And learn from everybody around you in the sense that you You are a tool for your client. Probably your
Mhm.
client is a car manufacturer, or or there are some funds that are building residential, or you are in retail and they're selling clothing or whatever it is. But you are a tool. It's not the project per se. You have to understand that the project is part of a greater business, and that
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
business is not the project itself.
That there is a bigger context than the project, and with that is most of the time that's business. So it
Yes.
has to, yeah, we need to understand how our projects, the delivery of our projects will eventually translate to what they're looking forward to, which is
Yeah.
revenue.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, revenue and yeah. So so you have held various teaching positions in different universities for master degrees in project management. How important is postgraduate studies and training for project managers? How important is it?
It's very important. I would say it's really vital. So, um, in my experience, you may be doing the thing. Still, when you get the training, you become conscious of what you do and you improve, and training gives you the tools to excel. So, you need to know the theory,
Mhm,
and even if it's only to decide not to go by the book, it's like
mhm,
any trade. And yeah, because the circumstances may not require it, or it's a smaller project that doesn't need the full development, but you need what you do to know what you're doing, what you're not
mhm,
doing, and all that. um, I have only received specific training when I did my PMP training, and when I did my master's degree at AEC, and it was a an important change in my life. I realized how many things I'd done without realizing it, and I learned a lot on how to move for the future, and stepped out of my training with a lot of confidence. So for me, it was like a fresh start, and it was very invigorating. I really recommend training. It's it's always something that brings um, brings marvelous things into your professional experience. Whatever, even if you've just finished, if you're in the middle, if you're up above, training is always positive. Because I see my pupils now, and I think, oh my God, how lucky you are that you finished uni and you can go into this training, and you're so young and you have all the tools and you have all the knowledge. So it's like you are starting from up above my shoulders, and um, I think that's amazing.
mhm,
One of the things I most enjoy about teaching is what my pupils teach me, because they
mhm.
teach many things. And I'm amazed at the capabilities, I'm amazed at how smart they are, and enjoy it a lot. So I think that training is a must for a project manager. That's my view.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree that teaching is actually a
Yeah,
two-way communication, wherein we actually, as a teacher, I also feel that I'm learning
yeah,
the most when I'm teaching, and I think that's very consistent also with Bloom's taxonomy. And so you mentioned there that it's very important to marry theory
yeah.
and practice,
It
and yeah, and we cannot take a purist attitude towards academic or theory and practice. We need to make them work together.
That is why I think it's very important for pupils to have the view in an academic background of what is done in real practice. So
Mhm,
when you're teaching, you can show your students how you're applying the theory and how you're doing it. It's amazing for them, because then they really click and understand what it is that they're learning in connection to work and to real life. So I always try to, besides the syllabus, I always try to give a couple of insights into the projects I lead or I do or I've done in the past,
Mhm.
and explain to them how I approached it.
Okay. Well, that's very insightful, Lola. And again, for those of you who are watching live, please feel free to type your questions at the comment section, and we're now on our main part, and we're very excited for you to um, share with us the 10 best practices in leading global project teams. So, okay. So, can you walk us through this 10 best practices, Lola?
Yeah. Of course, I don't know how I'm going to summarize it into 10. I have a little bit of a draft, but of course, communication. Communication is key. I can't stress it enough. I always tell my pupils that a good communication strategy is 80% of the success of a project. And I'm not exaggerating. So, internal communication with team members, external communication with all stakeholders. When the team members come from different countries and from functional backgrounds or working in different occasions, communication can rapidly deteriorate, or assumptions being made which are come from biases or misunderstandings, and that will ruin the dynamics of the project. So there will be no cooperation, and this can just bring distrust. That's the worst. So um, study your communications. Um, have clear whom you need to communicate with. You cannot use same communication tools with all your recipients
Mm-hmm.
or the same communication technology. And this is something you need to be very aware of and you need to work a lot on. That would be my recommendation. So, moving from there, I would say that hand in hand with communication comes the emotional connection between team members. And of course, empathy is key. We've all gone through this in this pandemic. This is something we all understand now. Um, you can interact formally and informally. You need to align, you need to build trust, and that builds bridges that um, help people understand, and they can feel close, and that allows them to work together well. That fosters good teamwork. So understand the other person you're talking to. That is vital. Empathy is very important. In that sense, I must say that as a woman, empathy is something that um, we may have more at hand and
Mm-hmm.
maybe less ashamed of. I think now, thank God, it's no longer a women's thing. It's a it's a thing for all. But yeah, that could be a pro, a plus.
Yeah. Yeah, Lola, I was, yeah, I think that can be that is an advantage because you're naturally more nurturing and
It could be, but now
yeah.
everybody is aware that soft skills are crucial, and
Mm-hmm.
with more and more technology in place, um, people, as we said before, are more important, and soft skills are more important. So that is something that we all have to think about. After following empathy, I think that you really have to work on social distance. Now we're all social distance, but I'm talking about global teams where It's not only the COVID situation, of course. It's about talking to someone remote uh, that is in the other part of the world, that you may have a time difference like we have now. So you also have to work on that. You have to agree how to do things. And also, this is very, very relevant. I think if you read between the lines of all these things that you apply to global teams management, COVID has made us consolidate and jump and leap in time to a much better position, trying to get the good part of all that's happening. So I personally use this split framework. So split comes from structure, process, language, identity, and technology, and they can all unite or distance global teams. So if I step and speak about structure, it really is how you perceive power in the team, where the management is sitting in this country or in this city, how close you are to the management, how much you can interact with them, how someone remote may feel less important. So you have to take special care that those who are furthest from this main office are given a word, listened to. You have to work proactively to balance all these inequalities and to make a setup so all the team members may thrive. Because in my experience, what others that are different and diverse can bring into the team is absolutely so interesting and so valuable that you have to make your best efforts to bring, all they have to add to the teams. So to correct this perceived power imbalances, really, I would say that you need to get to these messages, who is who we are. You have to make it very clear all the time. Say who we are. People have to start using the word we instead of the word I. So we is, you're an entity. You can be very different, but it's we. So the leaders should really encourage the sensitivity to differences and bridge them, build unity, and that comes even from language. So that is very important. Watch your language, watch how you express yourself. Avoid othering. It's not us and others, it's we. And that is very important in global teams. And from who we are, we can go to what we do. You have to remind all the time and be very assertive that you share a common purpose. This is our project. This is what we are doing. And we are working together to achieve this. Um, we measure our energy, we measure our goals to see how we are going to do. We know the competitions, we know the business very well, but what are we doing? And this means what are we doing in the project, but what are we doing in the program of projects? What are we doing in the projects as a group? What is the business doing? Where do we want to go? So it's what we do in a broader sense, not what we're doing today. It's not that today we're having a meeting. It's what we're doing, what this project can mean to the business, what this group of projects can mean to the business. So it's a broader what we do. And then, of course, it's what we do personally for your motivation. So it's all balanced. Always tell your team that you are there to support. You're there, you're there for them. And we live in this world of emails, but don't hesitate. Pick the phone. Pick the phone. Let them listen to you. Pay full attention when you're speaking to someone. Keep your attention to that you're doing and to that person. I think that is a very, very good lesson that I've learned from some of my Buddhist teachers personally. And that is when you're doing something or when you're spending time, I'm including workings, be really dedicated to that person. spend 10 minutes, but be with your mind, senses, everything in that interaction, in that communication. And that's the way of being there for people. So with this, you get to build trust. And then, of course, you have to proactively build these moments. So you are not having a regular FaceTime like you might have when you're having a coffee in the fika, as we see in IKEA, or in the coffee around where you have site and all that. But when you build in Teams meetings or Zoom meetings or whatever, and you have people on the other side of the world, give 5 minutes for a personal introduction. Speak about the weather, about the weekend, talk about the problems you have with the kid, or um, you are a person. So you want to work with people, and building in these moments does compensate for a lack of a regular FaceTime. I think it's very important. They don't have to be things that are directly linked to the matter at hand, but I can assure you that they will help a lot in the development of the project, because you can understand the other person, even if it's just to go back and ask for a special favor when you're going tight on the program, or building a relationship. Relationships are key. So I would say that build these moments. Don't, I had this project manager when I was working in the Intercontinental Hotel
Mm.
way back. And he used to arrive to the meetings. He was the property project manager, and he wouldn't even say hello. He would just go, and then go point one and start the meeting, because he thought he was more efficient by the way, if he eliminated all the chit chat, at the beginning of the meeting and all that. And what that created was a really terrible atmosphere in the project. And then it was a challenge to turn it around. So watch for those things. Be courteous, be polite, and find those moments. This is my advice. And then give this time to disagree. Disagreement is vital. Um, I've had today a peer review on the structure of the project I'm working on right now, which is quite a challenging structure. And I have the best engineering team from a very well recognized engineering company, one of the largest in the world, the largest. I will not say the name. And I have a fantastic team that's put together a great structure. But I've contracted another good structural engineer to go through the structure together with them and challenge them. Why? Because I want them to feel comfortable. Why? Because that is going to bring a great benefit to my project. They will have to rethink from scratch what they've done. Have we got the best approach? And spending money in another consultant and confronting them. Of course, they take it in a very professional manner. None of this is personal, but the outcome is fantastic because it gives people savings before I go and sit. Now I take what these others have told me, the two teams work together, and I get to the best structure that is going to have a good cost cut. And then I bring that to the construction. But always find time to disagree in a polite way. So that's my experience. And then finally, bring down all this dominance and dial up engagement, meaning forget about the power games and really work to balance participation to ensure this inclusion and this learning. This has to do maybe with people who cannot speak the language so well, but whose input can be very valuable. And not only that, it has to do with structures in the companies. So I would say put people out of their traditional roles. and step back, listen actively. Uh, be humble is my ask. Be humble yourself and ask others to be humble, because that is how you really build up engagement and how you get amazing results. And then, if we go back to split, the only thing I haven't touched upon is technology. So technology is now everywhere, and there's loads of different technologies that you can pull from. But I would say that you need really to set the example as a global team leader on how to use technology with your teams. That is part of the communication strategy too. So um, you are the one who will lead by example with technology. Of course, you need the support of your company to have the right tools, but you are the one who needs to use technologies in the proper manner. So if it is a formal message, you will not send it by WhatsApp. If if it is something quick that you want to convey to someone because it's urgent, pick up the phone. If it's not so urgent and it needs a more structured communication with all the um, attached information, go for an email. But always keep courtesy, always be polite, never take things in a personal way, but go for a resolution and really use technology to bring in this flexibility. And I would say that appreciation for diversity is really in the heart of managing a global team. That's very linked to identity. Again, in the split, the I, it's split and to respect. So respect is vital. And we are living in a very liquid environment, and having the chance or the opportunity to work with a really international team is really very rewarding. So you should want, as a project manager, to try to apply things like this I've spoken about today, or you may have your own tips, but certainly listening and bringing in the best from others is really very enriching and can help the project a lot. That is what I would like to convey as a final message.
Yeah. So I'm sure, Lola, that there are many things. There are still a lot that you can talk
Yeah.
about in about leading global teams. But yeah, for yeah, but we'll just have to sum it up in this 10 points, and we thank you very much for sharing those. We I'm sure that our audience would really if they put this into practice,
Yeah.
they would really benefit from it. And I have to agree that communication is really key. I learned this. This was one of the. This is, I mean, among the skills in project management. I think this is the frequently overlooked
Yeah.
because you have to you build on the hard skills, your cost management skills, your schedule, your time management skills, your contract administration skills. But then it all boils down to how much of that do we get to communicate to
Yeah.
our internal clients, external clients, and stakeholders, right?
Yes.
So
Important. Very, very important. And I've always seen that those who excelled in projects were the ones who could communicate what they wanted to do and their ideas and project itself, to be it a board of directors or be it the rest of the team, so they would get engaged, or be it a local authority,
yeah,
planning authority. It is very important.
yeah. And in the absence of good communication, I think it's very possible that a project can meet all the success metrics, but the clients can not
They
feel
cannot
or
feel it. Yeah.
cannot feel it because it has not been properly communicated to them. And so is and then the same goes for the rest of the team.
Yeah.
So yeah, communication puts us all in a common platform where we see the same thing, and we see things uh, with almost the same eyes, and appreciation for the things that have been accomplished.
And if you train in the way you communicate, and I deeply encourage any project manager to do so. So you should take a course in public speaking, you should take
Hmm.
a course on communication, all that is always going to help a lot. If you can transmit with passion what you're going to do, if you can separate the important from the not so important in communication, if you can convey the messages, and that means good PowerPoint presentations, PowerPoint or whatever. I'm not saying what to, but good visual presentation, good spoken presentation, good structure in your emails. And that means not adding too much information or too little, just adding enough, and
Hmm.
always thinking of what information you give to each stakeholder. They do not all need to know the same. You need to understand what's important to each of them and try to communicate in their own language. So if you're working for some international investment funds and you're reporting, of course, the reporting has to include all the figures, all the numbers, black and white, and you have to assimilate your reporting to theirs so you're making their life easier,
Hmm.
and that you understand because you're speaking their language. If, for example, you're communicating with a retailer, in the end you need to bring your project to what that's going to do to their P&L and to their sales,
Yeah.
and always like that. If you're communicating to a planner, you have to talk about how your project is going to embed in the city, and that's the kind of messages they want to listen to, or how it's going to affect to the community or to the residents. So always think, who am I talking to? Who's my counterpart? And what information they need. I don't want to give them too much data because that's always counterproductive, because
Mhm.
then they dig in and start asking questions which may not be needed. So you have to keep the level of information at the right level. And then if they ask for more, you give more. Or if it is, a deeper review of something, you have everything and you have it ready. But to start with, um, it is, I've learned that too much information can be as harmful as too little.
Mhm.
And always think who's receiving your messages. If you are sending something to a member of a board who's going to see your report while he is stepping in a taxi to go to the airport, and he is looking at it from his mobile phone or from his tablet, you need to give it to him in a very or her in a very concise manner, just bringing the important facts to him. You don't need to overload with a lot.
Yeah.
So be
Okay.
concise. Be concise. It's my message.
That's great. Great. Before we proceed, Lola, there's a question here coming from Kenneth Baltazar. Let me. Okay. So, which university is the best to take up postgraduate degrees for project management? Follow up: are there any scholarships available for such graduate degree? Thanks.
So there are many. Many have very good postgraduate degrees. I know the Spanish one is a little bit more. I know there's a lot also in the UK, and outside the UK, I don't have a lot of knowledge. But if you want an internationally recognized um, training or certificate that will allow you to travel worldwide, and that will explain that you have had a project management training, I would recommend the PMP. from the Project Management Institute, just as a benchmark. And of course, if you study in any of the good project management universities, which there are many, um, you will be offered this added on to get this certification. This certification really, there are many, and you don't have to have one or other. It's just a matter of showing something that tells your employer that you've had that training. But I would recommend that you obtain information from the technical universities that you have around you. I don't know where you are from, Kenneth, but find that out, and I'm sure they will offer good project management courses. Because what I've found also is that it is important to go to a good university and do a good training, but it's also very important how you approach it personally, how much time you're going to invest, how much effort you're going to put into it.
Yeah. So, as a follow up to that question by Kenneth, how much how does experience come into play when pursuing postgraduate education?
Um, I mean, I think you should always, if you can, wait a little bit until you do your postgraduate education. So you're a graduate and you start working
Mhm.
and you do a bit of work. I don't know, it can be different for every person. It can be 2, 3, 5 years, 10 years. You get your experience and then you go to get your postgraduate. Why do I recommend this? Because you always need the the view of how work is in real life, and to approach a master's degree with the wealth of experience makes it something very different and brings a lot more to you than when you do it as you step down, you step out of college straight away. Of course, it depends on the personal situation of any person, but I would recommend having a bit of experience. I would say that if you can have 5 years experience or the like, it's ideal, because then you already feel comfortable in work, and then you do your master's, postgraduate, and then that extra education allows you to give another leap in your career, and it can help you steer it and take the grip of it again. So that is what I would say.
Okay, so okay, thank you for that, Lola. And so you just shared it with us your 10 best practices for leading global teams. I'd like to know, as a personal reflection, how has this best practices impacted you and the people you've worked with?
Uh, well, they've impacted me. I found them very useful. I
Mhm.
really didn't, I mean, I was really applying them without having them in such a structured manner in my mind. But I was always quite a people-oriented person. I think that comes from my mom, because she was in the PR industry and she always understood the importance of that. And I saw her work, and I realized that it was very important. So you learn, and yeah, you apply them, and they make things easier for you. So I would recommend that anybody can read my best practices or other person's best practices and then apply them, because they make a difference. You realize that maybe you are not considering something in a sufficiently fair manner, or that you're not giving all the views to the project as you should, because you're not considering um, what someone in a remote location may bring, or and you're very much influenced maybe by what's happening in the main headquarters, or in between the power group of the three or four who are there gripping everything. Of course, there's one thing I need to say about this, which is also very important. In order to put all these practices in place, you have to be in an environment that is free of any toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
So we all study the I don't know how you say it in English, the APOS, and that means the non-written um, verbal or um, conditions of each company, like how things are done and how they expect things to be. But you've got to step out of that and do your thing. Do your thing, regardless of what's.
Mm-hmm.
Do your thing and do it well. That would be my advice.
And learning from best practices from of other organizations.
It's very
Uh,
important.
it saves us time actually learning things for
Yeah.
ourselves. So, why should architecture and engineering students or graduates consider a career in CPM, in construction project management?
Because for me, it's a path that shows you that you can achieve the projects you plan. So, construction project management is very much like life in a broader sense.
Mm-hmm.
That is, you have your goals, you draft your goals, then you need to be flexible, you need to adapt to the circumstances of what comes to you. Uh, but you always have your control. You may not have control on others, but you do have control on what it is that you do, and you have to work on keeping on track and to checking how you're doing versus your goals, and in the end you come up with something physical that is, or well, how physical it is I don't know, but with something, with a project which really uh, is going to improve the company's performance. So um, I do believe that a better built environment does frame our life. Uh, Maybe because I come from this family of architects, maybe it's because I really understand the importance of good design, but good design is not everything. So you need to make a difference to your community. And construction project management will allow you to do so. I mean, that's my say.
Okay, so after all these years and as you look back, can you say that it was a fulfilling career and a financially rewarding one?
It was fulfilling. I've always enjoyed myself a lot at work. There's no
Mhm.
doubt. Also, I enjoy a lot that construction project management can be very different every day. So one
Mhm.
day you are in the office and you are full on with the numbers, or you are full on with design, or you are full on with the development of a given part of the project. Then you're on site. You can also be traveling. So it is very varied. And financially, I've had all kinds of phases in my career. So at some stages, it's been more financially rewarding than others. But I think that you can make a good living on it. It
Mhm.
is very well paid. And of course, it is sad to say it like this, but if you are working in design and you're considering a change to management, it is better paid because fairly enough, design is not very well paid.
Mhm.
Um, of course, it depends on where you are in your career, and yeah, I think it's well paid. I mean, I have to say that it's well paid. It's a profession, so you will not become a millionaire out of being a construction project manager. That's for sure. But you can make a living, and it's good. Um, what I have learned, and I also want to make a point here, is to be less stressed, and that comes with the years. Unless you learn to to cultivate this detachment in a way and
Mhm.
this calmer attitude, uh, construction project management can get quite stressful at times in the project because you are the person that's there for everybody. So you are the first um, the first one to come with a complaint, the first one to accuse if something's wrong, the first one to come up with undone things and all that. But you have to learn how to manage that. And I've learned to put things into perspective and not to take things personally. So all that helps, and age helps a lot, and family support helps a lot.
Hmm.
So I would say that first, you should remain in a normal level of stress. You should not just be in a position where everybody's freaking out and you're freaking out every day. If that is the case, you're not in the right organization. That's
The thing with project management, construction project management, is that you can wake up to different problems every day.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So you have been you are currently a member of the steering committee of ICPMA.
Yeah.
How important is it to be part of this organization, and how has it impacted your professional life?
First of all, I have to say thank you. Thank you for all the ICPMA members and the board that co-opted me into the position. Um, I, I mean, for me, being a member of the steering committee is a great privilege,
Mm-hmm.
and just the fact of being in the meetings and talking to all of the other board members and steering committee members is amazing, because I get great feedback on what's going on and what the profession is facing, and it is a way to give back to others what was given to me in terms of education and in terms of what life has given me from my different roles and positions. And being a member of IMA makes me feel supported. It makes me feel I'm not alone. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just a pleasure to listen to what other construction managers are doing, how they're approaching the same challenges I may be facing in a project, if it's from the same sector or if it's a different sector, but I get reassurance. Or maybe I have a problem and a doubt, and I can pick up the phone and ask a colleague, how did you face this? So it is a great support. So it, it really makes you able to know how to face things and how to confront things on a daily basis. So uh, joining the ICPMA for me was like opening a wonderful large window to the world inside a profession. I used to go back home, and my dad used to tell me that you're a project manager. What is that? What's that? You're a what? And I was like, no, I'm a project manager. I'm an architect, but I'm a project manager. And then having this backup from ICPMA and understanding what other project managers were doing was really amazing. Amazing.
And so, how important is it to you in your journey as a construction project manager?
Um, it was very important. As I say, it's being able to talk at the same language to other colleagues, that they don't look funny at you because you are talking about, I don't know, procurement process, or this, for example, this peer reviews I've been doing today, or how you're approaching the program, or what type of programs you're going to use, and how you're going to structure something. So um, it's a lot of resources that you can pull from, and a great support platform. So in the end, it's like having a very good friend close to you all the time. You don't feel lonely, even if you're having difficulties with your clients, or you're not alone. You're not the only one that's facing those difficulties, and then that gives you perspective, and it makes you feel more comfortable in what you're doing. So I would say it's like someone next to you all the time. ICPMA is here next to you while you go along your way, which is great.
Okay, so thank thank you very much for joining us tonight, Lola. And before we actually uh, end this show, I would like you to invite our viewers to to join ICPMA.
So, how can I phrase it? I would say that if you're looking forward to having a career in construction project management, I would really encourage you to join International Construction Management Association. Um, I will clearly say that you will gain knowledge. I will clearly say that you are going to feel that you have this backup, that you have this support. You're going to find friends which will help you along the way. And you will exchange methodologies. You will have a chance to look into interesting forums, web pages. The conferences are amazing because you have a great time, whatever the city they're held. They're always very well prepared, and um, it's something that I would really say will make a difference in your career. So um, as a bottom line, it will allow you to perform better, and it will allow you to enjoy the work you're doing and to be more knowledgeable. So associations like ICPMA are a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of contacts, and a great platform to enjoy, exchange ideas, and we need that in our profession more and more each day. We can't just be isolated. It's very important to be a broader team, and being a member of an association like ICPMA, especially because of its international weight, is very important. No, excuse the police, but London is like that. A lot of noise.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much, Lola, for joining us tonight, and it's such a pleasure to have you to 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 share with us your experiences and your best practices in leading global teams.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much to ICPMA and to yourself, Brian.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So okay, there you have it. Thank you once again for joining us once again in for another episode of Beyond Design: Women in the AEC Industry. So join us again next week as we sit down with another member of the ICPMA, and you can watch us in the same here in Build Quotient AEC Training Institute every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Philippine Standard Time and 2 p.m. Central Eastern Standard Time. So this is Brian Regalado, and thank you once again for joining us tonight. Good night.